welcome back to the Bookworms Buddy. It is time for my January wrap-up. I did really good in January. I ended up reading 13 books. I think I started out with my TBR with 7. I've been trying to make my TBR smaller because there's always something else that I find that I want to read, and I try to cram them in there. So yes, 13 books, so let's get started. I'm not going to be giving big synopses and stuff since there's so many books. I don't want this video to be too long, so here we go. First book I read was Legend by Marie Lu, and this was for a read along with Courtney. This book started out really slow for me, but then, eventually it picked up and it ended up being a really good read. I really enjoyed how the author's writing style. I think that she has a really good writing style, and I really enjoyed this book. I ended up rating this a 4-star, and I look forward to reading Prodigy next. The next one I read was Origin by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is book number 4 in the Lux series. And I think you all know by now how I feel about the Lux series. I've really been enjoying it. As everybody says, it's a fun, engaging read. And this one too is fun and engaging, but also it gets a little more serious. It picks up the pace. More things start happening, and I really enjoyed that. I absolutely love this book, and I look forward to reading Opposition, which is the last one in the series. I rated this one 5 stars. The next one I read is Since You've Been Gone by Mary Jennifer Payne. This was a book that I got from NetGalley for review. And in this book you got Edie and her mom, who are pretty much on the run, hiding from her father. And I believe they move into London, and her mom gets a job and she ends up not coming home from it. So of course Edie is a little worried. The story goes on from there. I don't want to give away too much. This book is going to be released February 17th, and this book was okay. I rated it a 3-star. The next one I read was The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. Everybody knows about Percy Jackson and the Olympians, and I'm just really late getting to this series. My son bugged me to get to it and read it so that we can watch the movies together. And I really quite enjoyed it. It was pretty good for being a middle grade book. I was really surprised by that. I enjoyed it a lot. I did watch the movie after I finished the book. The movie was good, but I have to say that the book is much better, which is usually the normal thing. So yes, I rated The Lightning Thief 4 stars. The next one I read was The Iron Knight by Julie Kagawa. You all know that I love this series. This is a read-along I was doing with Brittany, and we'd meant to get it all done last year, but things happen. So we finished it this month, and the world building is beautiful. The characters are beautiful. I just loved everything about it. I was a little bit worried about how the author was going to be able to wrap things up, but she did beautifully wrapping this up. I loved the way she ended it. I loved everything about this book. It is my favorite of the series, and it is the favorite of mine for the month. I rated it 5 stars. The next one I read was Dorothy Must Die by Danielle Page. And I have to say, this is quite the different perspective. When you grow up, like I did, just waiting in anticipation to watch the movie every year, it's a little different because I watched this movie every year. I think it came out like Easter time or something, and it was once a year, and my sisters and I would sit around waiting for this movie to come on TV, and to see the characters in a different light was astounding to me. And the book was very entertaining. My sister actually read this before I did, and she brought the book to me last summer, and to see these characters that you grow to love in such a different light, it was a little odd to me. And then some of it was a little graphic. There was some graphic parts in this book. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it 4 stars. The Wicked Will Rise, I believe, is coming March or May, one of those two. I don't remember which one it was. But my sister and I are both looking forward to reading it. So yes, 4 stars. The next one I read was Wicked by Clover Donovan. This book is about witches, if you couldn't tell that. You got Ethan and Emma, who are both witches, and they find out they come from a dark bloodline, and things start happening with them, and the story goes on. I don't want to give a whole lot away, but the magic in the book was fantastic. I loved it. There's a lot of different witch books that you read that don't have all that much magic, or it's not really part of the forefront of the book. in this one, you see a lot of magic going on, and I really like that. I like to see magic if it's a witch book. That's generally why I stay away from witch stories, because, you know, there's all different aspects to it where you don't get to see all the magic done. Maybe some here and there, but this one, the magic was in the forefront, and I loved that. It was very fast-paced, very engaging. I would say it's a little more than a middle grade, though. I think it's a step up from middle grade. But it was very entertaining, and I rated this 4 stars. The next book that I read was Let Me In by John Lindqvist, and I heard so many good things about this book. And I gotta say, I wasn't that impressed. I think it was kind of boring and drug out. I think there was probably 200 more pages in this book that didn't have to be in there. I think there was parts that didn't have to be a part of this story. But you've got Oscar, who was a kid who was in school. I believe it said he's 12 years old, and he's bullied and all that stuff. And not even that is the main focus of the story. And this girl, you know, she moves in next door. Her name is Ellie or Eli or however they were pronouncing it. And things start to happen. They start finding people dead, drained of blood. And the story goes on from there. And yeah, I mean, there were some good parts. There were some ups, but it was really just okay for me. I rated it 2 stars. I will probably not be rereading this book. I may even have to give it away or something. But I'm sorry for all you people that really like this, but I didn't really care for it. The next book that I read was Runegate and Chosen. These are from the Runegate Psycho books by Mark E. Cooper, and I did a review on this already, and I will link to that in the description box below, so you guys can check that out. These books were fantastic. I rated Runegate 4.5 stars, and I rated Chosen 4 stars. There was such a great mix of stuff in this series, and the way the author wrote it, and the way the author progressed with the story was amazing to me. It started out mystery, and that's what grabbed me at first, and the fact that the first book was free. And there's a witch in the story who is asked to help them in an investigation, and the story goes on from there, and it just progresses so well. And then it kind of changes, but I'm not going to get a whole lot into that. I will just link in the description box that review. You guys can go check that out. Then the next book that I read was just kind of a quick pick off my shelf. Is Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. And yes, it is the play, but in the beginning of this book, in the very first 71 pages, is a novella by Jacqueline Ritten, which is the story, it's Juliet's story, her take on it all. And I'm glad it was in this book, because reading the play was not easy, because the language is so different from then till now, and it was hard for me to understand. So having Juliet's story in the beginning helped me comprehend, and that was great to be in there. I'm lucky that it was in there. Otherwise, I'm not sure I would have sifted my way through the story. But I ended up rating it 3 stars simply because of the novella in the beginning, and I loved the way that Jacqueline Ritten wrote that to where I could understand what was going on. So if you ever want to read this and you've not ever read Romeo and Juliet, try and get this edition with Juliet's story in the beginning. It was really good. I ended up rating at 3 stars. I don't know if I said that or not. Okay, and then the last book I decided to read was Uglies by Scott Westerfeld. I wasn't ever going to read this because I just didn't think it was going to be something for me. It's a dystopian, and I decided, after hearing everybody talk about it, I found Pretties on the sales rack at our used bookstore for $2. So I picked it up, and then I got this one from the library. And overall, the story was good. I ended up giving it 3 stars. I just didn't like the context of, these kids all made to think they're ugly, and then they have to go and be pretty. And that just was kind of annoying to me. There's enough of people thinking that, and other people look at it as, well, this can open people's eyes to that, but really it just, I didn't really like that aspect of the story. If they could have chosen any other thing besides ugly and pretty. And then some of the names for the towns, Uglyville, I think there's Crumbleville. I mean, come on. Names of the towns were a little out there. Also, I did not like the main character at all in this book. She was rude and annoying, and she wasn't very understanding of other people. As the story went on, she got better, but yeah, it was hard for me to even read about her because she was just annoying to me. But overall, I rated this a 3-star, and I will be reading Pretties because by the time I reached the end of the book, I wanted to get to the next one to see, you know, I'm not going to give anything away because it was a pretty good ending. So, yeah, Uglies, 3 stars. And that, my friends, is the end of my wrap-up for January. Like I said, I had a great month. If you've read any of these books that I have read in January, comment below and we will talk about it. And thanks, guys, for staying tuned, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.